After the trauma of the amputation, there's a period of recovery, regaining health, healing from the injuries. And there's a certain point where we start to look at what kind of prosthetic is required and what's needed to get this person to their level of mobility. And a lot of people start with the assumption that the newest technology and with the biggest build to it is going to be the one that's going to yield the best benefits. It's not always the case. But what I wanted to point out is there's a variety of technologies. We work our way through them in many cases to find the right technology for each user. So I just wanted to kind of dispel that thought in the first place, that all the high-end technology is for all the amputees. There may be a very small subsection that can utilize some of the newest technologies today. To Adrian's point of the power foot that's on the table there, it's the one that's standing up. It's Generation 1 technology. It does some wonderful things for a small group of amputees, but the technology, it's the first to have power. If I was an amputee, I don't think I'd want to move that way quite yet. It's very clumsy, very clunky, and it's not really a wearable cosmetic device that really a lot of amputees are looking at. But the technology does exist, and for certain people who can't walk on a regular prosthetic foot, it's yielded mobility for that subsection of the amputee population. So the way I wanted to break this down, I'm just going to run across the table, I hope you can all hear me as I go, is essentially the most obvious area of technological improvements, which we often forget, is in the prosthetic socket itself, the interface between the amputee and the device. And if you wind back maybe 20 years, this was the interface between the skin and the prosthesis. It's a woolen sock. Amputees would pull one or more of these onto their limb to try and protect themselves against abrasion. I'm guessing a little bit, but the healthcare costs associated with use of that device were probably related to lack of mobility, blisters, sores, calling into work on a Monday morning, hey, I just can't walk anymore because I had to do my errands at the weekend. So about 20 years ago, new technology in gel and elastomers created prosthetics that very rarely these days do we see open wounds, amputees that can't walk because of the prosthesis. So we've already solved some of the problems and are getting further and further down the line with those solutions. So a lot of people forget the basic technology that is accepted today. The same is happening within the foot and the knee category. So wind back those 20 years again, and quite commonly used, a rubber and wood foot. There's probably still some of them 20 years old that are being walked today because they're incredibly durable and incredibly robust, but they yield very poor gait. If you walk on this all day, your back hurts, you've got impact through joints in your body that don't heal that quickly, and you end up maybe 20 years later as a relatively disabled individual trying to get by on the prosthesis. So we've got to look at the quality of gait, the way that these devices support people through their increased mobility. If I was in my clinical practice fitting a Satch foot to the likes of Adrian Aaron or Adrian, I'd be doing a disservice because they'd be limited to certain mobility that have comorbidities associated with that device that wouldn't necessarily heal quick enough. So that's maybe a way of looking at the technology. As we moved into the 80s and 90s, we started to use lighter weight materials, some dynamic response and energy return, and that's become a fair standard today. But as we look forward into the future, why not replace some of the other technologies and use microprocessors, motors, and control systems to mimic the human body? As the price of these devices starts to come down, as they become more user-friendly and easy to apply, this technology will have a place in the prosthetic foot side of the bargain. So the final area I want to kind of jump into is, as Aaron pointed out at the end of his presentation, he's walking on 2 microprocessor controlled prosthetic knees. He's leaning against the wall right now, but can stand comfortably without the risk of suddenly collapsing. Has anybody seen anybody suddenly collapse in society? It's quite a frightening thing for the individual and for everybody around them. Microprocessor knee technology has prevented that from occurring with amputees. So they can move among us, they can live their lives knowing that the computer is like their ABS system. It's holding them upright, it'll allow them to do all the movements they can do without a sudden buckling of a knee joint and falling down, potentially injuring themselves and becoming another healthcare cost. So that's where the knee technology has gone. There's some very sophisticated devices, very bright and blingy devices as well, that have microprocessors that are controlling falls and preventing stumbles as well. So I wanted to end at that, but I just wanted to end with the fact that as technology improves, we should expect that amputees return back to full mobility with safety and without common issues of abrasions or skin breakdown. So just a thought to consider with the advance of technology. Thank you.